Hello and welcome to Matchday 26 of Championship Predictions from the Sport Podcast. I'm Craig Savage. With me, as always, is Daniel Cody and Charlie Betts. Let's have a quick recap of Matchday 25.75, where it was an absolutely horrendous week for Daniel Cody and Charlie Betts, who both only scored a point, and that was the Bristol City versus Huddersfield game. However, for myself, it was fantastic. It was a perfect score for Bristol City versus Huddersfield, and then 1 point for Barnsley, Cardiff, Coventry, Sheffield Wednesday, which should have been 3. Until they scored the last minute second goal. And Swansea Brentford, which also finished a draw. So overall, that means I win Matchday 25.75 with 6 to Charlie and Daniel Cody's 1. So overall, the gap has got bigger for myself. 179 with 32 perfect scores. Daniel Cody is on the 165 with 25 perfect scores. And Charlie Betts is on the 142 with 21 perfect scores. So let's start with the Friday night football at Sky Sports Reading. It is Reading versus Bournemouth. Cody, a coach has gone from Bournemouth to Newcastle.
Yes, it's an interesting tale of loyalty with Graham Jones. But let's be fair, taking out the footballing side, in our opinion as a Luton fan, if you get the chance to go to Newcastle, a massive club, there are not many coaches that would turn it down. And I don't think it'll be long, on a slight side note, before he's caretaker manager there. But we'll leave that at that. In terms of Reading Bournemouth, though, I know Bournemouth snuck through in the cup and there was the promising sign of Jack Wilshere back amongst the goals and back playing. But building fitness is going to take a while and they lost their 2 previous games in the league 1-0 each time. Reading haven't been conceding many. They've only let in 3 goals in the last 6 games. 2 of those goals were against Luton, by the way. I just can't see Reading losing this game. I don't see it being a big scoring one. I don't see it being that entertaining. But Sky Sports Friday night games are normally brilliant. So I'm going to stick with Reading to nick this by 2-1 with no logical reason.
Charlie?
Yeah, it's a tough one because Reading actually been fairly strong at home the last sort of 4 or 5 games. But then you just throw in that loss to Birmingham and it's that little nagging bit of doubt in the back of your mind then that, which Reading plays. But, they've been in good form. And Bournemouth only won 1 in the last 5 or 6 away from home. A couple of draws, admittedly. But again, that was against the really out-of-form Stoke, a 1-0 sort of win, back to the wall sort of job. So I think I have to go with Dan's intent of a Reading win. I don't know if there'll be as many goals in it as that because Bournemouth generally aren't, they don't let in a lot. So I'm going to go for a Reading win, but 1-0 this time.
I'm going to disagree with both of you, to be honest. I don't see a lot in this. Reading will be disappointed that they only got a point against Preston. They missed the penalty from Lucas Jow, which was poor. Yeah, it depends which Bournemouth turn up. Obviously, they've been struggling in the league lately. I don't know. I'm going to go for I'm going to start with the Championship favorite scoreline on 1-1 on Sky Sports Reading. Moving on to Saturday, it is Norwich City versus Middlesbrough. Charlie, 3 straight defeats at home now for Middlesbrough and no goals scored.
Oh dear, Neil Warnock. I don't know. I genuinely, I know we do this as a bit of fun, but I genuinely don't know what to do with Borough anymore. Because admittedly, they're away from home and Norwich have been scintillating at home. So in terms of the game, I think, I don't want to speak for you two, but it's fairly, hopefully, an obvious home win. So I'll go for a Norwich win. But on Middlesbrough at that point, to lose at home to Rotherham, and I'm not doing a teams like Rotherham, but Rotherham's away from home, not the tightest at the back. They're not, the greatest side going forward, and yet they still managed to lose. So I don't understand what's going on there. And that is worrying for me if it's there at home, so away from home. So there's a bit of issues now with Britt Aston-Balonga and his contract as well, so I don't think that's helping. I'll bottle it, I won't go 4. 3-0 Norwich. I think it'll be a resounding home win.
Codes?
I've got a similar thought process, but I'm not going to go quite as heavy because Norwich don't really score more than 2. They've been winning efficiently. The week off's probably going to help them. No midweek game last week. So I think they're going to be fit and firing. They're getting players back. They're getting players in form. I don't really know what's happening to Middlesbrough. They're middle of the road away from home. And to be fair, their only good performance recently has been on the road at Nottingham Forest. But I'm going to go for Norwich to win. I can't see past it. 2-0, comfortable, home banker.
Yeah, I think we're all going to have to agree on a Norwich win, to be honest. I'm not going to go for the same scoreline as you. Because I do think Middlesbrough having in themselves just to sneak the odd goal from absolutely out of nowhere. So, yeah, Norwich, as you said, don't score that many. They don't batter teams. There's never really a heavy scoreline for them. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Norwich City. It's landlords versus tenants at St Andrews. Birmingham City versus Coventry. Coventry are pretty good at home, but they're away at the ground that they play at home. Birmingham are absolutely useless at home. So do you see a point?
No, I don't see a point, actually, because Birmingham are the worst team at home in the Championship now after Derby's last win. They've let in 22 goals at home, which no other side is even into the 20s yet. They lost at home to Preston, who have been average. the win at Middlesbrough's trying to fool me, but Coventry aren't much better on the road. That's the problem. And you say it rightly there, but they did win at Millwall recently. I think that's going to buoy them. Although they've conceded 21 on the road. So even though these two sides aren't the best in front of goal, I'm predicting defensive howlers galore, massive goals. I'm going to go for, do you know what? This is going to come back to bite me on the arse, but I'm going to go for 3-2 Coventry.
Charlie?
Yeah, I agree in terms of, Birmingham's home form's been terrible. Coventry, the two they did win in the last 5 were by 2-1. So I'm going to stick with that logic. That a 2-1 away win, if they're going to get a result, if they're going to get an away result, it will be by a 2-1 win. Both teams are really not struggling defensively, if I'm honest, respectively home and away. So on that basis, there'll be 3 goals in it: 2 to Coventry and 1 to Birmingham.
Looks like we're all going to go for the same result of a Coventry win. But I've got a funny feeling Birmingham might sneak this one. I don't know why. It's one of those we never expect Birmingham to do well at home, and then they do it.
Back to yourself, go on, do it.
No. I'm sticking Coventry. But I've got a funny feeling Birmingham will do something. I'm going to go 2-0 to Coventry. Up next at Ewood Park, it is Blackburn Rovers versus Luton Town. Codes, Blackburn, they picked up a very good away win against Middlesbrough last weekend.
They did. The problem is now, because of Middlesbrough's other results, I don't know how much to gauge it on it. So they drew at home to Stoke before that, who have also been in awful form. And they beat Birmingham before that. So their championship form looks great recently, but they're all against sides in woeful form. So I don't really know where to go with it. Luton on the road are one of the lowest scorers in the championship. Joint lowest. They've got 6 goals yet. But they don't concede a huge amount. So I don't really know where to go with this. We've said this about Blackburn all season. They could rock up and win 4-0, or they could draw 1-1. You just don't know. So I'm going to play safe here. I think this is going to be the worst game of the weekend, and I'm going to go for a goalless 0-0 draw.
Charlie?
Yeah, I can see where Dan's coming from. I think Blackburn are slightly stronger at home. They've only lost 1 in the last 5, but the last 2 have been draws, 1-1 against Stoke and Sheffield Wednesday. And you can argue differently about Wednesday, but Stoke and they haven't been in the best of form. So how much do you read into that? 2-1 Blackburn.
I'm going to go for the same scoreline, but the other way.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a repeat of last season's scoreline. Obviously, you went there, Codes. We didn't do much well because they weren't around with doing that.
We didn't know what video was back then.
Your camera's shocking anyway. So, I've got a sneaky feeling. Obviously, Blackburn, they do score, but they do concede at home as well. I mean, they played well recently. Obviously, lost 3-1 in the cup to Chelsea. They played all right after 15 minutes. And then before they played well against Brentford, despite not winning the game. And then they played well against Bournemouth and actually won the game. So they've had 3 tough fixtures in the last week or so. So there's some potential in there. So, 2-1 Luton. Up next at the Brentford Community Stadium, it is Brentford versus Wycombe. Charlie, Wycombe, obviously both these 2 teams had cup games against Premier League sides. Who do you think stood out most?
I don't know. It's tough, really, because I think Brentford at home have been very good. Wycombe haven't kept a clean sheet away from home all season, and not a single one, including the FA Cup. So obviously getting a goal against Spurs, but you see that so often. You've seen it where like a low team, but then Spurs turned on a bit. So I wouldn't read too much into that. I think, it was a 50-75% effort from Spurs to still turn them over. So I'm going to have to go for a Brentford win because everything says it should be, which means it's probably not. But Brentford have been unbeaten at home in the last 5. Wycombe not won in the last 5 away from home, drawn 2, but 3-0 Brentford.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say the same thing. I think the way the reverse fixture wasn't much in it. I think it was 0-0 the reverse fixture between these 2 sides. So Wycombe found a way to obviously not concede a goal against them. Obviously, and they got a good. That's a good point. It's a very good point. However, Brentford are unbeaten in the last 16 games in the league. So 16, 17. I could still see it be a Brentford win. Obviously, Ivan Toney's back. Credit where credit's due to Brentford. Obviously, going to Swansea, went 1-0 down and bounced back straight away with an equaliser. So that's a very good point for Brentford at Swansea. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go for Brentford to win 3-1. Coach.
Well, this is probably my dark horse of the weekend. I was really excited watching Wycombe because Uche Ekpazu just stole the show up front there. He made a mockery of Toby Alderweireld, the world-class centre-half, which was very good to see. He looks like the piece of quality they need up top. And I'm kind of hoping that as we move through the season, Wycombe will start to pick up a bit more fluency and a few more points on the road. They haven't played any games since the 2nd of January in the league. They've only played the 2 cup matches, so it's very hard to judge their form. But Brentford have drawn nearly half of their home games. Wycombe on the road, I think they might nick a point out of this one. So I'm going to play safe, and I'm going to say this is going to be my first championship favourite scoreline. Brentford 1, Wycombe 1.
Up next at the Cardiff City Stadium, it is Cardiff versus Millwall. Coach Mick McCarthy got off to a bad start, but he bounced back very well to get a point against Barnsley.
Yeah, I mean, what we've learned from that game is that Mick McCarthy has not forgotten how to give a half-time team talk, because they were a different team in the second half. But it doesn't change the fact that Cardiff are in awful form. Yes, it stops the rot of defeats in succession, but it's not the win. However, they will be pleased to be coming up against Millwall, who don't win many. Their last 2 wins were against Huddersfield and Bournemouth, both on the road. They did get a decent point at home to Watford, though. So that's the only thing that's sort of swaying me here. And if you look on away form this season, Millwall have actually got the 7th best away record in the Championship. So there is a little bit to take into account there. I don't think Cardiff are going to lose it. I think they'll be buoyed by that performance. But they concede and score loads at home, the opposite to Millwall, basically. So I'm going to meet in the middle. No, I'm not. Thriller. Desmond, 2-2.
Charlie?
Obviously, I didn't back Cardiff last week with Mick McCarthy, but I think at home will make a difference. I think, having a bit of he's had a few more days with them. So I think I'm edging towards Cardiff, just on the basis that although, it's tough because Millwall obviously beat Huddersfield, who are very good at home, but in the week before, they lost quite spectacularly to Nottingham Forest. So I don't know where you go with that. I'm going to have to go for a Cardiff win. I back Mick McCarthy at home, but it's by what score? It's no one's keeping a clean sheet. 2-1 Cardiff.
I think we're all going for a high-scoring game, to be honest. And I'm torn between two scorelines, and it's either 3-2 Cardiff or 1-0 Cardiff.
They're two very different scores, Craig.
Exactly. I know. I'm gonna go for it. Mick McCarthy masterclass. Forget Michael O'Neill. 3-2 to Cardiff City. Up next at Pride Park, it is Derby County versus Bristol City. Bristol City are picking up points now, Codes.
They are. They're starting to play well. I mean, bar the Norwich game, they've been pretty great for the last 2 to 3 weeks, albeit 2 of those games in the Cup. But they're starting to look like a very good side again. They didn't win quite as convincingly as I thought against Huddersfield, but all that matters is the result. But they're coming up against the 1-0 specialists, and that's whether it's losing or winning. There's always 1-0 on Derby County's watch. So it's whether I go for the 2-1-0 defeats or the 2-1-0 victories to come out on top. The fact Derby at home does worry me, but it was a good result against Bournemouth. Bristol City on the road, their form has been sliding in recent weeks. So I'm going to go for 1-0 to Derby County. Another Wayne Rooney special there.
How do Derby stop Deju at top? Because obviously he's on form mode since he's come back from injury. He's starting to score now. Obviously, Derby do well at home at the moment. They are doing well under Wayne Rooney at home. Massive turnaround from Koku. Yeah, I don't see a lot in this one, to be honest. You'd think it'd be a away banker, not much of a home banker, but an away banker. But I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1. Charlie?
Yeah, I can see where you boys are coming from. The Bristol City away from home haven't won in the last 4. Slowly sliding down that away form table. But then Derby, like I say, not been the best. But then there is that Bournemouth result. That throws the whole thing out, to be honest. And 2-0 against Swansea. So it does make you wonder, is Wayne Rooney turning into Michael O'Neill? Is he the counter-attack specialist? He comes up against sides who have got better players on paper and going by that. So I'm going to go for that, but I think they're going to hit him twice. I think, similar to what Dan was saying, I think that they'll keep a clean sheet. Bristol City I don't know, they'll go flying forward, leave holes at the back. It's not happened, but it will this time. There'll be a late goal from a corner or something like that where they'll hit him on the break. 2-0 Derby County.
Up next at the John Smiths, it is Huddersfield Town versus Stoke City. The reverse fixture was 4-3, but Huddersfield's form has dipped, Charlie.
It has a little bit, yeah. They've obviously lost the last 2 at home, and they were fairly strong home bankers for the last, prior to the last 2 weeks. But then, having said that, it lost away to Millwall. Lost at home to Millwall, and then Reading. But then Reading, I don't know. Reading can be a good side, so I'm not going to read too much into that. I'm going to assume Michael O'Neill setting up for another draw. So, do I go for 0-0 or 1-1? But given that Huddersfield do score goals at home, they are a bit more free flowing at home. I think I might have to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline, my first of the day, 1-0.
Stoke have conceded a few lately. Huddersfield are out of form. Is it a Michael O'Neill masterclass? Is it going to happen? I don't see any signs of that early season Michael O'Neill masterclass actually working for Stoke at the moment. I'm going to go Huddersfield to win 2-0. I don't know why. I'm just going to go for Huddersfield to win 2-0. Coach?
Well, that means that somebody here is getting a point because I have gone very much the opposite of that. Huddersfield have been in woeful form. Now, I predicted them to be in a dogfight at the start of the season and just about get relegated. They're now 8 points clear of the relegation zone, having played 3 games more than Rotherham. So I'm starting to get a little bit worried about them. And I hope I'm not right because I'd like them to stay up, but I'm worried they'll get dragged into it. They've lost 4 in a row in the Championship, 5 in all competitions. Stoke have still got the 6th best away record in the Championship. I know they've drawn over half the games, but they rarely lose on the road. Huddersfield at home are starting to slide. They've only drawn one home game all season. So I am going to go for Stoke to win this by, do I go big? That's the question. No, 2-1 to Stoke.
Up next to the City Ground is Nottingham Forest versus Barnsley. Oh, this is a tough game to pick, Coates.
It is actually, because Nottingham Forest, I mean, Charlie alluded to it. They were just turning the corner, then lost at home to Borough, who have barely been able to win another game nearby, and then 5-1 against Swansea in the Cup, didn't play midweek. Barnsley are starting to find form again, beat Norwich in the Cup, got a good point against Cardiff, albeit throwing it away from 2-0, but in Mick McCarthy's first game, to prevent the full new manager bounce is not a bad effort. The only 2 games they've lost, Barnsley, in recent times, or in fact the 3 they've lost, are Watford, Swansea and Norwich, who are 3 of, if not the best 3 teams in the Championship.
And Bournemouth. We've lost to Bournemouth recently as well.
Absolutely. So it's all of the top 6, essentially. And against the rest, they've largely been consistent this year, especially since Ishmael's come in. On the road, they're not quite so good, though. They don't often draw. It's just whether Forest are going to get back to winning ways. I really don't know about this one. It's the hardest one of the week for me. But I'm going to go for Forest to nick it. And I know I'm going to regret it. I'm going to go for scrape of the day, 1-0.
Oh, I don't know. Because
it's a horrible one.
It's a horrible one because they should go either way. Because Barnsley have really improved. They really have improved since Ishmael's turned up. And that really has surprised me, to be honest. And credit where credit's due. Forest, on the other hand, yeah, they won, as you said, the last few results. Like, yes, and then, oh, what the hell? And it frustrates me because their squad is so good and they're not delivering. And at the moment, they're still in the relegation battle. I'm going to go for the same scoreline, but in Barnsley's favour. 1-0. Charlie.
It's tough because I've always said I'd back Forest since however way back when. But yeah, I mean, like you say, Barnsley's away form has actually been pretty good. The losses they've had are obviously against the top 6 teams. They are going into it in good form, but I don't know. Maybe Houghton just wrote off the cup. I'm not saying, you should do that. I'm not a fan of doing that, but maybe that's what happened. Obviously, I don't think it's expected to be as spectacular a loss as it was. So I think it'll shore things up a bit more. I don't think they'll come out as much. They've got good firepower, but if you haven't to sort of play counter-attacking defensive football, how much use are you going to get out of them? Seeing as Barnsley are in there 2-4, 4 goals to each.
Up next at New York Stadium, it is Rotherham United versus Swansea. Hey, Charlie, what a turnaround by Rotherham. 2 games in, and they could be way out of the relegation zone.
Yeah, to be fair, and it's tough because, to be honest, this is probably the game they didn't want. Swansea have been in great form. Like I said, they've just turned that corner, and actually, I'm not going to name other teams, but there might have been other teams you'd have rather played right now, just to keep that momentum and build it up a bit. I think I have to back Swansea, though, because they're just too strong. I know Rotherham have hit a bit of form recently, and obviously that incredible draw with Stoke 3-3 at home in their last home match. They do score goals, Rotherham. I don't think Swansea will keep a clean sheet. When I do go for a Swansea win, I do normally go 2-0, but not today. I think I'm going to back Rotherham to get 1, but Swansea will stick with their 2 goals, 2-1 Swansea. But, all credit to Rotherham for what they've done in the last few weeks.
Cody?
It's quite a tough one because Swansea, I think, still, even after midweek, have the best defensive record in the EFL this season, which is a pretty stunning achievement. On the road, they're very good. This would have been a banker a couple of weeks ago. Rotherham have found form. They got their goal difference back up to 0 at home, and they've been involved in a thriller against Stoke last time. Swansea aren't often, as we mentioned, they're very good at the back. But I don't know if this is going to be the exception. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a draw. But I don't know whether to go for 1-1 or for something absolutely outlandish. I don't think I can because Swansea won't concede that many. So I'm going to go for Championship's favourite scoreline for the second time today, 1-1.
I can't see anything else bar Swansea win, to be honest. But not the same scoreline as Charlie picked. I'm going to say 3-1 Swansea. I do think they're strong, but as you said, they do concede away. They do concede at home as well, Robert. They do concede at obviously 3 against Stoke, and Stoke haven't been great, to be honest. So positives, obviously, they're picking up points nowadays. They've got a good win against Middlesbrough, a very good win against Middlesbrough, and also get the clean sheet. But I still think Swansea will be far better than Middlesbrough at the moment, and they'll do the business. 3-1. And the final game is at Hillsborough. It's Sheffield Wednesday versus Preston. I'm going to start this one off.
Thank God.
0-0. Charlie.
Oh, where do you go with Preston on this? Wednesday won the last 3 at home. 1-0, 2-1, 1-0. So, but it's just Preston. It's just which is it the Preston that gets from 3-0 at home away to Luton, or is it the one that turns over? When they beat Birmingham and teams like that. So I don't know. Oh dear, I'm going to bank on Sheffield Wednesday. I want them to stay up. I like them; they're a good club. no logic. It's the first one I'm going for, no logic, which will probably be the only one I actually maybe get a point for. Sheffield Wednesday to win by, Preston might let a few. 2 goals to 1. 2-1.
Cody.
Well, my problem with Charlie's prediction is the fact that Sheffield Wednesday, 12 games at home, scored 9, conceded 8. So they are one of the lowest scorers at home, and I've got one of the best defensive records. Preston on the road, on the other hand, 3rd best away record in the Championship, and have conceded the 4th most goals. So where do you go with this? As Craig mentioned, it could just be a dull 0-0, or
It could be 6-all.
It could be 4-1 to Preston. We just don't know. If Preston put their boots on again on the road, they could be flying. It's the second worst, close behind the other game. I'm going to go for Sheffield Wednesday. I've picked up at home under the caretaker. Though. Preston are going to have an off day. It is going to be 1-0 to Sheffield Wednesday.
And let's have a quick recap of what we just predicted for Matchday 26. Goals, and goals, to be honest. Only 2 0-0s. Myself went for Sheffield Wednesday and Preston to be 0-0, and Cody went for Blackburn Luton to be 0-0, which I don't think that would actually happen. I'd be amazed at that end 0-0. I'd be amazed at that end 0-0. Charlie's gone bold, 2 3-0s. Norwich v Borough and Brentford versus Wycombe. And those are predictions for Matchday 26. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Let us know in the comment section down there. And while you're down there, give this video a like, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football Free. We'll see you next time.